All right, welcome into the Breer Report for April the 4th. We are turning the page and the calendar is now full on draft season. Owners' meetings are done. It's been a couple weeks since the start of free agency. The veteran market still needs to work out, and there's still one big domino to fall out there in Aaron Rodgers. But for the most part, over the next few weeks, our focus here will be on the draft, and the focus of the NFL is on the draft today as Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter have their workout at what they're calling the Colorado Showcase. It is the pro day for the quarterback of the Colorado Buffaloes and the Heisman Trophy winning two-way star for the Colorado Buffaloes. And what that's going to mean today is a couple teams having the full force of their front offices and coaching staffs at this pro day. There are a number of guys from the teams with the top three picks there. The Titans, who have the number one overall pick, have their general manager, Mike Borgonzi, their president of football operations, Chad Brinker, their college scouting director, John Salgi, their vice president, Reggie McKenzie, their offensive coordinator, Nick Holtz, their defensive coordinator, Denard Wilson there. In addition, they're going to work these two guys out on Wednesday. Head coach Brian Callahan will be present for that one. The second pick, the Cleveland Browns hold that, and they have probably the biggest contingent there. They have their owner, Jimmy Haslam, in attendance. The owner's son-in-law, J.W. Johnson, who's the team's EVP, he's there as well. The general manager, Andrew Berry, both their assistant general managers, Kat Hickman and Glenn Cook. The head coach, Kevin Stefanski, is there. The offensive coordinator, Tommy Reese, is there. The quarterback's coach, Bill Musgrave, is there. And then you have the Giants with the third overall pick, their general manager, Joe Shane, their assistant general manager, Brandon Brown, their director of player personnel, Tim McDonald, their head coach, Brian Dayball, their offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, their defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. All those guys are in attendance there. And then the New England Patriots with the fourth overall pick, they only have vice president of player personnel, Ryan Cowden, in attendance. I would couch that by saying of the four teams I named, they're the one that actually has their off-season program starting next Monday. So the coaches are back in Foxborough setting up for that. Obviously, a lot to see in Colorado, and this will be the last chance for a lot of folks to see Shedeur Sanders throw. Some of these teams will work him out privately, but the last chance for a lot of people to see Shedeur Sanders throw before the draft, which is 3 weeks from last night. And a chance to see Travis Hunter move around a little bit. He isn't running a 40 or going through the physical testing, but he will at least go out there and run routes for Shedeur Sanders. Where do we stand right now? Well, I think if I had to guess at this point, the Titans are pretty locked in on holding on to the first overall pick. Again, things can change, but pretty locked into holding the number one overall pick. And I don't think the number one overall pick will be one of the guys working out in Boulder. It is trending to be Miami quarterback, Cam Ward. Where things get interesting is at 2 with the Browns. And the Browns have at least looked at the idea of taking a position player at 2 and then maybe doubling back at quarterback somewhere on day 2. We got a little bit of a tell on that last week. Last Thursday night, Haslam, Johnson, and Berry were all in State College, Pennsylvania, took Abdul Carter out to dinner, but Kevin Stefanski was not there. Kevin Stefanski was in Oxford, Mississippi to see Jackson Dart work out. So the idea there could be that they take Abdul Carter or presumably Travis Hunter, second overall, and then take a quarterback there in the second round. The Giants, again, like if you look at the makeup of their quarterback room, they've set it up so they don't have to take a quarterback second over or third overall. They have Russell Wilson. They have Jameis Winston. That's a lot of starting experience in that room. They've got Tommy DeVito as their third quarterback. And it's interesting that they've brought defensive coaches as well. Having Shane Bowen there gives them a chance to look from that perspective at Travis Hunter as well. And I think New England sending less infrastructure out to Colorado is a little insight into maybe the idea that they don't think it's very likely that Travis Hunter gets them with a fourth overall pick. So if I had to guess right now, I would probably go Ward to the Titans at 1, Carter to the Browns at 2, and then Hunter to the Giants at 3. But clearly with their offensive coaches there, the Browns and Giants are still doing all the work on Shedeur Sanders. Now, Could be that they take him in the top 3. It could be that they're looking at the idea that maybe he could slide in the first round a little bit, where they either get him at the top of the second round or they trade up from the top of the second to the bottom of the first to go and get him. Either way, big day in Boulder, Colorado today. All right, our second topic. Geno Smith signs a 2-year, $75 million extension with the Las Vegas Raiders. It will tie him to the Raiders through 2027, matches up with Pete Carroll's 3-year contract. And it gives the Raiders some runway. And really, when the Seahawks traded Geno Smith, the general idea was, we don't think we're going to be able to work out the contract that'll work for everybody. And, you have a year left. So if we can't work out a contract, then this by definition isn't going to be a long-term thing. And we think that there's probably a team out there in the Raiders that's more willing to go contractually where you want to go than we are. And I know Geno Smith's goal had been to score a contract in the 40s. If he hits some incentives in this deal on a new money basis, it can get into the 40s. He can get to $87.5 million in new money over the 2 new years of the deal. There's some funny math there, but you'd be talking about over $40 million per year on the new years of the deal, which is good for Geno. And, I think it puts the Raiders in a position now where they don't have to force anything in the draft. And, obviously quarterback's been a question for them since they cut ties with Derek Carr a couple of years ago. This gives them certainty. This gives them the ability now to build up the rest of the roster. And if that opportunity comes, great. This again, and I've used this example in the past, is sort of the Alex Smith long-term bridge plan, where if you see that opportunity, you can strike. But in the meantime, you can continue to build up the rest of the roster and continue to work the rest of the roster. So when you do get that young quarterback to come in, you've got an environment that's going to be conducive to him being at the highest level he possibly can as early in his career as you can get him there. So love the move for Geno Smith. Love the move for the Raiders. It creates some stability at that position for them. And now they're sitting there with a 6th overall pick. They can legitimately look at a Jalen Walker, at an Ashton Genty, whoever you might think fits for them, Mason Graham. Those guys are all on the table now for the Raiders. They don't have to force anything at quarterback, which is a good place to be. And I think it speaks to the influence of Tom Brady in the organization too, in that, I was hearing a few months ago that Mark Davis was going to mandate a quarterback being drafted in the first round, similar to what Jim Irsay did with the Colts a couple of years ago, where, going in, you say, okay, we're definitely taking care of the quarterback question in the first round. It's a bad place, I think, for a front office and a coaching staff to be in, because there's no telling what you're going to think of the quarterback class, and where your pick is can make it a moving target. In this case, I think, Tom Brady's influence in the organization has calmed those waters a little bit and created a situation where now they can have Geno Smith as their short-term answer and sort of a long-term bridge, where it's not just a 1-year bridge, and give yourself the time to let things play out and build the roster in a responsible way. Finally, our third topic. I don't want to spend too much time on this. This is a backup quarterback, but Joe Milton was traded from the Patriots to the Cowboys yesterday. The net for the Patriots on this is they move and pick up 46 slots. And the value on the Jimmy Johnson draft chart of the trade for the Patriots was essentially a 6th rounder, which is what they used to draft Joe Milton a year ago. So the question becomes, when you've got a big, strong-armed, talented kid who looked good in Week 18, why do you trade him? I would tell you right now, they trade him because they're trying to clear the decks for Drake May. And this can create a situation where in the quarterback room now, everything's built around Drake May. And they signaled that that they were going to do this in their pursuit of Josh Dobbs in free agency, where Josh Dobbs wanted to know, am I going to have to compete to be the backup, or is there going to be the opportunity here where I'm going to be around for the year, and I know going in that I'm going to have the spot in the quarterback room? And they assured him that this was a possibility, that they might move Joe Milton, because Joe Milton wanted an opportunity to be a starter somewhere. And they just wanted to have a clean quarterback room, and they wanted to put a guy in there who was going to be a resource to Drake May and help accelerate Drake May's development. So in this case, it gives them a chance to put that sort of person in the room. And I don't think this has anything to do with them not wanting competition for Drake May in there, because I can just tell you this about that kid. Like, Drake May is not the type of kid who'd shy from competition. I think he'd be fine with whatever you put in there. This is about enhancing what you've got in there for Drake May, which I think they believe that Josh Dobbs does. The Cowboys were the only team to make an offer. They initially offered a 7th-round pick. They wind up with the final terms. Again, that's about the equivalent of a 6th-round pick they give up for him. So the Cowboys get a developmental guy to replace what they had in Trey Lance in that room. And the Patriots, again, get the cleaner quarterback room there for Drake May. Appreciate you guys coming out. Enjoy. I think it's called the We Ain't Hard to Find showcase there in Boulder, Colorado. Should be an interesting day for Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. I personally will be sure to be taking a look at that on TV this afternoon. And we will be back with another fresh set of Breer Reports next week. We'll see you guys then.